The Birdie Bag is finally back and it's getting its revival. So it's been 2 years since I first designed the Birdie Bag, and now since I learned how to make proper ebooks and instructions, I've made a proper ebook for this one too. Before we get started, let's have a close look at all the details of the Birdie Bag. The Birdie Bag has a front zipper pocket, and the side and bottom piece is folded on the top edge, so be aware of that when choosing your fabrics. They should not be too thick. This is the zipper pocket from the inside, and it sits on top of a slip pocket. So the slip pocket does have a magnetic snap just to be safe. On the interior you'll find a zipper pocket as well as a slip pocket. The Birdie is a small crossbody bag, but it still holds a lot of stuff. It's quite roomy. The side tabs is connected to the side top and bottom piece and also secured with a rivet. Now let's prepare our pattern and our fabrics and get started. First, when printing your files, be sure that you've downloaded the file to your computer, and then open up your file in Adobe Reader and select print. Make sure you've downloaded the right version, either US Letter or DIN A4. Then you'd have to adjust your size to actual size, or you have to scale it to 100%. That depends on your computer. And when it's on 100%, you can print it. When you've printed out your pages, check the square boxes on the pages if the measurements are correct. When it comes to fabrics, here are the fabrics that I've chosen. I've chosen an outdoor fabric for my exterior. It's a water repellent fabric, and the accent parts are made from faux leather. My faux leather is not too bulky, so if you have like really bulky faux leather, maybe you shouldn't be using a domestic machine, then prefer industrial sewing machine. The interior is made from just a regular quilting cotton, a lightweight cotton. These are the interfacings that I've used. This is G700. I've used all my lining pieces with this, including the seam allowance. This is Decophyllite. I've used them for my exterior pieces out of the seam allowance. And some pieces do need some volume, so I've added some Pellon Thermolam. There you see the Pellon. This is the H630 as an alternative. And you would fuse it on top. One piece, the C piece, I've fused with H250. It's kind of like a Decobond 809, but that's totally up to you. You find marks on each pattern pieces, which pieces are fused with which interfacing. And if you see dotted lines like here on the F piece, there you can print out a second piece just for the stabilizers, because they will be attached to it without seam allowance. So the volume fleece will be fused above the Decophyllite. We also need some hardware, so we need a slider and 2 hooks for the strap, some rivets, 2 D-rings, 3 zipper pulls, and a magnetic snap, as well as some zipper tape and some bias tape. When we look at the pieces here, you can see like how I fused the Pellon Thermolam over the Decophyllite, and this is the slip pocket, the backing piece. And as I said, on each pattern piece you'll find clear instruction what to fuse to what. The piece for the front pocket does not need any interfacing, because we want to avoid all the bulk that we can avoid here. So first we will start with the front. So gather your stuff, get everything ready, use the instruction to prepare all your pieces. And this is the piece that we're gonna make. This will be the side and the bottom piece. Here you can see all the pieces that we'll need. We also need 2 D-rings and 2 sets of rivets. First we will make the tab where we attach the rivets to. So this is one piece, and we will cut it in half later, so we have two, one for each D-ring. So take the tab, mark the center line, and fold the raw edges towards this center line, and then top stitch. I've used just some scrap fabrics for this. You could also do that, and you can make this a bit longer if you like. That's totally up to you. Now I will divide this into two pieces and thread one D-ring on each tab. Secure the short ends with a clip, and then we will take the side bottom piece and mark the center. Next, we will place the tabs on each piece, on each bottom side piece, aligned by the top edge centered. Now, it's totally up to you how far you like your D-rings to be sticking out of the seam. So I let my D-ring tabs stand over the edge for about a few millimeters. You can align it to the edge, but then they will be longer. So if you use the tabs really tight, if you want to sit them tight in there, just make sure you leave enough room for the seam allowance when attaching the top side piece. Next, we will place the top side piece on top of this right sides together and sew this edge with 1 centimeter 3/8 inch seam allowance. Next, fold the fabrics like that so the tab sits towards the top, and then top stitch. For extra strength, I will install a rivet right centered beneath the top stitching. So make sure not to punch a hole through the top stitching, but still connect like all layers together with the rivet. So when the rivets are set, we will need the bottom piece from our main fabric and connect the side pieces to the bottom piece. So place it upwards, right side up, place the side piece on top aligned by the short ends, right sides together, and sew this edge with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now fold the fabrics away from each other and finger press the seams open. You could also give it a press if you use fabric that can be pressed, because we will top stitch this piece with the seam allowance open. Looks good. Next, we will take care of the lining pieces. It's the same move. We take the bottom lining piece, put one side piece on top, right sides together, the other one as well, and sew the edges with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Then we will fold the fabrics away from each other, open up the seam allowance, finger press it open, and top stitch exactly the same way that we did with the main fabrics. When that is done, place the two pieces wrong sides together. Baste together along the outer edges, and your side and bottom piece is done. If you have some lining fabric sticking out on the side, just trim it off. It'll be easier to attach than later. Set this aside, and then we will take care of the next piece. Now I'll be showing you the front, because this is the next step that we're going to take. This is the finished front from the front and the back, and we will start with the front zipper pocket when making the front, and we also create the slip pocket. Here you can see all the pieces that we need. We need the backing for the slip pocket, the zipper pocket backing, the zipper pocket itself. We do need the front zipper pocket gusset piece, zipper tape, and some bias. And first, let's start with the front pocket zipper. We do need a zipper which is 20 centimeters long, 8 inches, closing towards the left with zipper pull attached. So we sandwich the zipper in between the main and the lining fabric and sew the top edge with 7mm seam allowance, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then fold the fabric's wrong sides together, making sure the bottom edges are lined, and top stitch. Next, we will take the eyepiece, the front zipper pocket gusset piece, and fold it wrong sides together along the long edge. You could also give this a press if you have fabric that will allow to be pressed. That will be okay with that. Now we will align all the raw edges together. And first we will start by aligning the center of the bottom from the front pocket and the center from the eyepiece, and attach it to all the edges with clips. Just secure it and make some snips if necessary into the eyepiece where it's above the curved edge. So you can eyeball this a little bit because the eyepiece is a bit longer than the front pocket is, so it will be standing over the edge, and we will trim that off later. My zipper here is a tiny bit longer, as you can see, because it's standing over the edges too. And next we will secure this piece on the zipper pocket piece with 7mm seam allowance, 1/4 inch. And now we will attach some bias tape. And the way I do it is I place it underneath it, and then I stitch the same stitch line from before and secure the bias tape like that. Then trim off any extra. So we trim off extra bias tape, the eyepiece that is standing over the edges. And if your zipper is a tiny bit longer than in the instruction, than 20 centimeters, trim off the edges from the zipper as well. Next, fold the bias tape over the raw edge for a nice finish. Therefore, you take the raw edge of the bias, fold it towards the raw edge of the front zipper pocket, and fold over again and secure with clips. Next, all you have to do is top stitch. Next, we will attach this front zipper pocket to the front zipper pocket backing piece from the main fabric. And before we do this, we have to mark the top and bottom center. So next, take the front zipper pocket backing piece. So this is not the slip pocket piece, this is the other piece. Make sure you have your list at hand so you can get the right piece. Mark the center as well, and then place the template on top, centered and aligned by the top edge, and take some chalk or magic marker and draw the outer lines from the template and the marking from the center as well. Transfer this edge to your backing piece. And next we will sew the front zipper pocket onto this piece. Fold the seam allowance, the bound seam allowance, towards the inside, away from the edge. I know it's fighting to be in the way, so this is a bit annoying, but we need to fold this out of the way and secure this with a pin and some clips to your backing piece. So I will take a clip for the top edge on each side and a pin for the center marking. And the zipper is longer than the edge from the backing, so this is normal. And then check first before stitching if your markings add up with the length of your zipper pocket. But next I will take you to the sewing machine and show you how I stitch it on there. So it's kind of hard to see where the marking is because I've used white chalk, but I just put the piece in place right in front of my needle and do not pay too much attention about what's coming up. Just focus on the parts that will be sewn that are right in front of the needle. Make sure the bound edge is folded out of the way to not disturbing your stitch line, and adjust, go slow. The curve is a bit tricky, but it should line up perfectly. The straight edge is easy, of course. Just follow your markings and continue stitching till you get to the top. So when getting to the top, it should be exactly the correct length. So it should not be standing over the edge, okay? So make sure you follow your markings. So looks good. Check if you like what you see, if you get everything is straight and correct, and then align the top center. Both align the zipper and the backing piece centered, and now you can see the zipper is longer than the edge of the backing, so we will create a fold on each side. So to do that, the seam allowance, the bound edge here, should be placed towards the center of the bag, towards the middle, towards the center, and then create a fold just in the way that all edges are aligned perfectly, and then baste this edge together. And to make this a bit easier to baste, I will start in the center to the side, and then in the center again towards the other side. As you can see, I have two lines here, one starting here and there, because it's not slipping away like that. Also, a helpful trick is using a humper jumper. I'm sorry. So next we will take the C-piece, the slip pocket backing, but we need to install a magnetic snap. What I like to do is I like to install this later because I don't want this to get caught in my sewing machine on the bottom, scratching everything up or like get tangled into anything. So I just make the marking. So I take the piece, the marking from the C-piece, and transfer it to the wrong side of my fabric. And then I will already make the two slits for the magnetic snap. So later on I can just attach it. But of course you can do the markings and the cutting later, or you could also install this right now. Then place it right sides together on the assembled piece, centered. And since there's like this big bump on each side of the front pocket, I start in the center again and sew towards the edge, basting first, and then sew again with 7mm seam allowance. So I have several markings, sewn edges. Then you fold the fabric up and top stitch. I top stitch here from the side like a U shape, as you can see, to avoid some locking stitches that might be appearing later on the sides. So there's just a little trick I've learned. So we will fold the fabric, the C piece down just to top stitch the top edge. Remember, we've not installed the magnetic snap, so make sure this edge is straight and then top stitch. And before basting all the pieces together, we need to install it if not done already. So right here I will install the male part of the magnetic snap. I'm sorry. And then we can baste the piece together. Now we will attach it to the front, and then we need to install the other piece of the magnetic snap first. You can place it on there and make the marking like that, or you could also use the piece, the paper pattern piece, to make a marking. That's totally up to you. And it's 11 centimeters from the bottom edge as well, if you just want to measure it. But I mean, the safest way to do this is just to place the front pocket on top and then make the marking so it sits correctly. So when the female part is installed, I will fuse some Decophyllite over the back to secure my lining fabric later. Next, I will close the magnetic snap, make sure that the front pocket sits straight, and then baste the two pieces together. See, I check here on the sides from the top, just you can measure it, and then you can see if it's straight. And then baste in place. See, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, okay. Baste together and the front is done. We will make the two interior pieces, and when they're finished, they look like this. And here are all the pieces that you need. You need the A lining pieces, the slip pocket, and the interior zipper pocket, and a zipper. First, we will draw a rectangle on the wrong side of the facing. It's 5 inches times half an inch, 13 centimeters times 1 centimeter. You could also, if you use centimeters, just draw a rectangle 2 centimeters from each edge, draw a line, then you have the correct size. And then we will take an A lining piece and place the facing onto the lining piece centered, and 2 centimeters from the top edge, which is 1 inch. It's a bit more than 2 centimeters, but it's easier to make and it doesn't make a big difference. So if you wonder, like, sometimes the centimeters and the inches is not lining up perfectly, it's because it's easier to make like this if it does not have a relevance. So stitch along the drawn line so the two pieces are connected, and then cut the center line, but not all the way, because your cut will end in a V shape into each corner of your rectangle. Cut as close to the corner as possible without cutting into the seam. Now push the facing through the hole and give it a press. I'm wondering, how do you like this new idea of mine, showing the finished piece, the part of the back that we're making in the beginning first? Do you think that's helpful? If you like it, or if you don't, just drop it in the comments, okay? Next, we will need a zipper, which is 17 centimeters, 6¾ of an inch. Place it on the interior zipper pocket piece, both being right side up, and stitch the top edge with 7 millimeter, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and repeat with the other interior zipper piece. So with the zipper being right side up and the fabric wrong side up, and the zipper closing towards the left, place the gap of the A piece over the zipper coil. make sure the sides from the facing and the fabric pieces are aligning. And then sew the two pieces together by stitching a rectangle around the zipper. Next, turn the piece over, fold the upper piece down and trim off the extra fabric on the bottom. Sew the side and bottom edges with 1 cm seam allowance. If your zipper has been longer than in the pattern, like mine, always just trim off the extra zipper on the sides. Next, we will make the slip pocket for the interior. So take the two interior slip pocket pieces, wrong sides together, sew them with 1 cm seam allowance 3/8 inch, but leave an opening on the bottom edge. Then trim the top corner off and turn the piece. If you want to, if you can use zigzag scissors to trim the curved bottom edges as well. And then turn the piece and give it a press and fold the seam allowance from the opening inwards. After pressing, also top stitch the top edge. Looking good. This is the opening. And now we will take the second A lining piece, mark the center, and place the slip pocket centered on right side up on the A piece, 5 cm 2 inches from the bottom edge, and top stitch the slip pocket onto the A piece. And this is how the interior is done. Let's install the main zipper. And this is how the piece will look after this step. We will need a zipper with the zipper pull. We need the main fabrics and the lining fabrics. So the zipper is 10 inches long, 25 centimeters, and closing towards the same direction as your front pocket zipper. I will leave the pull out of the way and install it later. So first I will baste the zipper on the top edge of my front, making sure it will close in the correct direction. Okay, next take the A piece with the slip pocket, place it right sides together and sew the top edge with 7 mm 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then fold the fabrics away from the zipper and top stitch. We will attach the back and the back lining piece in the same way. So the main fabric goes right sides together with the zipper. I will baste this in place first and then place the lining piece with the zipper pocket on top so that the lining pieces are both right sides together. And then sew this edge with 7 mm seam allowance 1/4 inch. Fold the fabrics away from the zipper and top stitch again. Now we will put the zipper pull onto our zipper. Just like that, and then baste all fabric pieces together, and I will make some extra stitches on the zipper. My zipper has been longer, like I guess really. So I have to trim off the extra zipper on the sides. So the main zipper was quite easy. Don't forget to mark your centers. And now for the hardest part of the birdie bag, the final assembly. I'm warning you, make a break before you do the next step, just so your nerves are calm and collected. And if it's getting too hard, just take a break in between and then just go slow, and we got this together. Okay, let's do this. So make sure all your pieces have the centers marked on the top, on the bottom, everywhere. All centers need to be marked, and we will align these centers in a way that I'm showing. So take the top curve center and place it on one zipper. So the zipper, the main zipper, is the center marking for you, okay? So we will attach it right here and on the other side as well. And then we will, instead of just using clips, we will baste this in place. Just make tiny basting stitches, just 1 or 2 stitches. They should not be too far, otherwise they're disturbing. But like this, nothing can slip away because it will try to slip everywhere, okay? So we will baste the centers in place first, just to secure everything nicely. Next, we will secure the other centers as well with some basting stitches. Okay, first we will do the top curves, and to make all the assembly over curves easier, make some slits first into the bottom side piece where it's above the front and the back curve. And on the top, we will make those little slits into the main pieces, not in the side piece, because the side piece is now the curvy piece. So we make this slits right next to the zipper, where it's above the curves from the side piece. Make sure these curves are really tiny and will be within seam allowance. So we will do the top curves first. So take some clips to connect the edges, and then we will baste the top curves first on each side. So first I will take clips, and when attaching the clips you can also realize that they try to move and not stay in place. And this is how I will sew this. I will put this on my machine like this, with the side bottom piece being on the bottom. But let's go to the sewing machine together and we will sew this together. I will show you how I do it, because yeah, it's really, especially if you don't have an industrial machine or if you have a machine without a free arm like my machine, it's really hard to do this. So just start somewhere before the curve. It does not be like an exact place. This is just to find like a straight start. Can you say it like that? So I will start right here and I will baste all the edges together just along the top curve. And as you can see, everything is slipping and gliding out of the way. So this basting stitch is kind of important. So I will focus on what's right in front of the needle and not further away. And like here in the video, it was really hard for me to sew with the camera in front of my face. So I did open up some of my stitching later and re-sew it, because I was losing the seam allowance later on, but you can see that maybe in some pieces. And now I will sew the same curve that I've just did with the correct seam allowance of 7 millimeter, 1/4 of an inch. And then repeat this on the other side as well. So we did the basting first, now we do the 7 millimeter, and it's kind of standing upwards, the back, so you need to push this behind of your machine and rearrange constantly, because it will affect your fabric pieces pushing away from each other. So go slow, stitch by stitch, and baste first. So this is the other edge. See, this is where I slipped a little bit, so later on I did open this up again and sew this edge again without the camera in front of me, because as you can see me like pushing the camera being wobbly is because I try to look above it, but it's so hard. Maybe I need to get somebody to help me film these tutorials. Okay, now we did this on both curved tops, as you can see right here. First basting stitch and then again with the correct seam allowance. And now it's time to do this with all the other edges as well. So there'll be a lot of threads hanging there from the basting and the correct seam allowance stitching, but trim them off, otherwise they will be sewn into the piece and sticking out everywhere later. So now I will take some clips to attach the other edge. We do one side first and then we will baste and sew with the correct seam allowance of 7mm afterwards. And I just start where the other seam ended, the stitches are ending. So this is, you can see like where my previous stitching started and ended. I will start to baste from one to these other points and then sew again with 7mm seam allowance and then repeat with the other open edge. You can see the other stitches, so I will stop here and then repeat the same step with the correct seam allowance, but I will start above the previous stitching so that there's like an overlay, and it's really important. You need to lock your stitch as well. Okay, lock and then correct seam allowance. Here you can see all of the stitches and all the threads hanging out, and next we will need to repeat this on the other side. Before you can check if you caught the front slip pocket correctly, I would definitely check this before closing the bias tape later, or before attaching the bias tape. We will do the same thing with the other side. You know, before I tried attaching the bias tape to the bottom side piece before assembly, like I would usually do my binding, but in this case it did happen a lot that the bias tape got wrinkles or folds, so I decided to not do this in this case. So this is the basting stitch, as you can see. It's really close to the edge. And then we will do this again with the correct seam allowance of 7mm 3/8 inch. And then all that there's left to do is the binding, which is not really easy, but with a little bit of practice and good nerves we can do this together. Okay. So next I will take the bias, and I have two pieces, so I need to connect them first. So check if the bias is long enough to cover all of the raw edges. So I will connect these two pieces and then we will bind this together. So I place the bias right side up on the bottom of my machine and the bag on top, and then I will align it, the raw edges together, and continue stitching like in the correct seam allowance stitch line that I've done before. So when you get to the curves, make sure that the bias is not folded or wrinkly. So as you can see, I pull this like straight and then adjust it stitch by stitch as I go along the curve. And go slow on the curves and stitch again in the same stitch line as I did before. And then I work my way around the whole piece, and the top curves are going to be the tricky parts again. See, this is the opening. Make sure that if you have this done like me, that the seam allowance of the bias tape is folded open to avoid bulk. And now we're getting to the top curve. So make sure the zipper is out of the way. I've trimmed some more threads. And then I go slow along the way, and I keep adjusting the bag step by step. And at some point you will need like a hump jumper. I don't like hump jumpers, so I always take faux leather piece. Like this piece has been there for like 5 years and I still use it. And I fold it just as high as I need it and place it on the back of my foot. So work your way around the whole piece until you get to the start. There we are. This is the beginning of the bias tape. So here, slowly adjusting step by step. And fold the beginning of the bias tape like a triangle. So the end of the bias tape is overlapping the beginning for a nice and clean finish. See, I fold this to the side like a triangle and stitch above the beginning and then lock my stitch. Okay. See, now we need to trim off the extra bias on the side and on the start or the beginning. And if you do have too much of a problem folding the bias tape above the seam allowance, you could trim this seam allowance slightly, but only a little bit, only a tiny bit, okay? Not too much. And then we will fold the bias over all raw edges for a nice clean finish. Secure this with clips, and then one more round, one final top stitch, and then your bag is done. Of course, we still need to do the strap, but you know what I mean. The bag is done. So let's speed this up a little bit, Sarah. Okay, bias tape is secured. So that was quite a workout, I know, but this bias like creating a frame for your bag, and it will give this so much firmness, and I just like the way that it supports your back. So I know many of you don't like binding, but I like the effect. I don't like binding itself, but I like the effect that binding creates. And if you're good at binding, you have so many more opportunities. So best moment seeing the bag for the first time is right after turning it right side out. So make sure that the front pocket is turned correctly as well, and everything is in the right place, and applaud yourself. You've done this. Is amazing. The birdie is now done, and all that there's left to do is the strap. So for the strap, I took some faux leather, full width, and my strap is gonna be 2 centimeters wide, 3/4 inch. Yeah. And I will mark the center line, and I fold the raw edges towards the center and then fold together again, so there are 4 layers of fabric on top of each other. You could use some double-sided tape for that. I never have enough on hand, and I just found out that it will work like that as well nicely, so you can use clips like I do and then top stitch both long edges. When that is done, I will install my slider first. So for my rivets, I will make some markings. So the measurements you see on the screen are the gaps that I use in between the markings. So the first 2 markings have 1.5 centimeters, half an inch of a gap, and then I leave one big gap which is 4 centimeters, 1.5 inches, and then a second rivet 1.5 centimeters again. But you can do this however you like to. Then I will punch these holes and thread the slider on the holes, not on the holes, Sarah. I will thread the slider on the short end of my strap. So thread it on there and then secure this with 2 rivets. If you don't have rivets, of course, you can secure this with stitches. So next we will thread a swivel clasp on there. Make sure it's not twisted. And then take the short end through the slider again on top of the strap that is already on there. And then I will make the same markings as I did before, except for the center gap is a little bit smaller than before for the second swivel clasp. Then you need to punch the holes, thread the swivel clasp on it, make sure it's not twisted as well, and secure this with 2 rivets or some stitches. And then you can attach it to your bag, and congratulations, you've done it, you succeeded. And I really hope you like this tutorial. I hope you will make many birdies, maybe sell some, make them for your friends or for yourself. And I hope you've learned something new and enjoyed this make with me. Come visit me on Patreon and on Social Bag Makers on Facebook, and let's make more bags together. I see you around next time. Bye.